Hi, and welcome to Rich's Kitchen. As we're getting into the fall season here in the Sierra foothills, figured it was getting close to soup time. So today we have a wonderful lemony lentil soup to make. Quite simple, quite easy to do. I know all the ingredients will be on the film also. To accompany the soup, we're going to do bruschetta or a crostini, depending on which term you like using. But instead of the usual just cheese and basil, we're going to have a white bean spread with some garlic and some sun-dried tomatoes and some parsley. So we're going to start by turning on our soup pot. And we're going to add about a tablespoon of coconut oil. You can use olive oil if you wish. I like coconut oil, especially for foods that seem to have more Indian kinds of flavors and things. The spices we're going to use are Indian. So about a tablespoon of coconut oil. As that's melting, we're going to want to add a few different spices. We're going to add about a tablespoon of coriander and about a tablespoon of cumin. And this is just a start. We're going to be adding a little bit more, doing a little more in layers. And we'll start with the onion. Now we're going to use, probably about 2/3 of this onion. And you want a fairly fine chop. One of the situations with cutting vegetables when you're at home, see if you can cut your vegetables as evenly sized as possible. They will cook much quicker and more consistently. It's never fun to dig into something and find a real tender, soft, lovely meal, bite, and then find the next bite hard and not cooked. So if your cutting is similar, your doneness is going to be similar too. I'm going to add the onion. It's taken a little while to heat up. I'm going to add a little more coconut oil actually. Give that a quick stir. And we're going to let the onions cook just to the point where they're a little yellowish, a little tender, not necessarily browned. Next we'll add a potato. I'm using a fist-sized potato here, and I'm going to leave the peel on. I've already washed it, so it's already clean. And we're going to do cubes. Now, since this is a lentil soup, and there's a lot of things about lentils, I think we just are all used to having some dark brown lentil soup. So what's a lentil? It's a legume, and it's actually one of the highest protein ones you can get. Every half a cup of a lentil is 12 grams of protein. So it is an excellent protein addition to your diet, let alone whether you're a vegetarian or whether you're a meat eater. There's a lot of different types of lentils. I'm using red. One of the reasons why I'm using red is because it cooks much faster. The brown lentils, the black lentils, if you go to the store that has a good variety, you'll see there's French lentils, and the red actually cook the fastest. They're sometimes called split red lentils because they are actually split in half. So I'm going to start adding the potato. The red lentils will cook in really 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. Most of the other forms of lentils, which all have a little bit different flavor, a little bit different taste, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on which variety of lentil. Make sure you look at your recipes, and if you're going to use a different kind of lentil, work accordingly, because it really will make a difference in how long your dish takes to cook. If we had smell-o-vision, you're beginning to start smelling this. So far we have coconut oil, coriander, cumin, onion, and a russet potato. We're going to add, probably about a half a teaspoon of salt right now. I often add all my spices 2 or 3 times during the process. I don't like to add too much at the beginning, and I can layer and get exactly what I want. About a half a teaspoon of black pepper at this point. Not sure if you can hear the sizzle. Next we'll add carrots. Now you can either use any kind of carrot you like. If you have large carrots, that's fine. These small ones often are a little bit sweeter, and I like having that flavor balance with the spices. We'll add a few more than that. Most of the time you see red lentils cooked in Indian restaurants, it'll be cooked to the point where it's just sort of mushy, and it's in the form of dal, which is a pretty known Indian dish. What I'm going to do with this lentil dish, though, is not cook it to the point where they're mushy. So many lentils dishes that I've had over the years, soups or stews, and frankly the lentils are always sort of mushy, not a lot of texture to it. So because of the carrot and the onion, and I'm not going to pulverize or blend the lentils, we're going to have some texture. We're going to have some flavor to it. The coriander, the cumin, I'm adding a little bit of oregano, and I was out of our dried oregano, so I was able to go out to my garden and pick fresh oregano from my garden probably about an hour and a half ago. And that's adding a really lovely aroma to this. To the onion and potato and spices, I'm going to add 6 cups of vegetable stock. Now, certainly if you're not vegetarian, you can certainly put in chicken. This dish is designed to be vegetarian. We're adding 6 cups of vegetable broth. There's 2 cups in that one. And another 4 in here. And once that gets heated up, we'll be adding 2 cups of the red lentils. And we're going to watch it to make sure it doesn't cook too fast, because I want some texture in this soup still. Wonderful. I'll give this taste in a little bit, just to see where the spicing is at. One of the unusual items that are flavors in the soup is lemon zest and lemon juice. That gives us really bright flavor. We'll add a little cilantro on top. We're going to wait for this to get a little bit hotter before we add the lentils. So while this is cooking, we're going to start the bruschetta, or the crostini. The words are the same for either. They're both basically Italian terms that use for an appetizer. Usually it's bread, a little olive oil, a little cheese, some basil, tomato, lots of different varieties of these. I'm doing a little bit different one. We're going to do a white bean spread that has a few spices, parsley, sun-dried tomatoes, salt and pepper, and it'll be a little bit different as a crostini. A little trick for cutting these so you get a little bit bigger slice is on an angle. I have enough camera people and interns today that I know I need to make a full pot of soup and enough crostini for everybody. Now I'm using cannellini beans. You can certainly use any other form of a white bean. Let's see. Most any grocery store is going to have these. And to do a simple mash. We want to make this into a spread, and I can spread it on the bread. Get a starting mash here. And this meal goes together really quickly. You know, while the soup is warming up, the crostini is being made. By the time the crostini is done, so is the soup. A little texture in the beans is good. It doesn't have to be a real smooth puree. If you prefer it a smooth puree, you certainly can. Oops. As I said, we're getting into some cooler weather. Soups are one of my favorite things this time of year. And one of the nice things about it is you make one soup and you generally have a few meals. It doesn't make sense to make a small batch of soup. So you can see we're getting a textured mashed white bean mix here. Going to add some olive oil to soften it up. Probably about 2 tablespoons. And as I said, I want to keep this going, but not too fast, because we do really want to keep the textures of all these. Make sure the spots aren't all the way. A little more olive oil, maybe another tablespoon's worth. We're going to add some sun-dried tomatoes. These have already been packed in oil, so all I did is drain them. One thing on the lentils, when you buy lentils, they have to be rinsed. I've already done that. Basically, you run water really slow. You can do it in a fine mesh strainer or a colander, because no matter who the company is, there's always a little bit of dust and dirt in the lentils. You can actually occasionally find little rocks. So it's a good idea to sort of examine what you're putting in there. I already did that ahead of time. So I've already rinsed and washed the lentils and looked for little pebbles and rocks. It's interesting that in today's technology and business, somehow they haven't figured out a way to eliminate the little pebbles and rocks that are often in grains. And depending on your taste, how much sun-dried tomato, and because these are packed in oil, these will stay really nice and soft. Often sun-dried tomatoes will get sort of crunchy if they're on top of something. Let's see how it works. We'll add a little more. Give our soup a check. I'm actually going to cover it. Retain some heat in there. Now we'll prepare these crostinis actually on the tray that goes in the toaster oven. Oh, looks like we need a few more here. Go. So to the white bean mixture, I've added sun-dried tomatoes. About a half a teaspoon of salt. Same amount of black pepper. And as a final part in this, we're going to put in just some Italian parsley, flat leaf parsley. If you've wondered about the differences between flat leaf parsley and the curly, basically the flat leaf has a lot more flavor. The curly looks cuter on your plate. That's why you generally will see that on your plate in restaurants. But it really is a lot less flavorful than the Italian flat leaf parsley. If you're really looking for the parsley flavor, this is what you want. You can see it's turning into a blend of the white beans, sun-dried tomatoes, salt and pepper, olive oil, parsley. We're going to check our soup. I think it's time to add our lentils. Now I'm adding 2 cups of lentils, and like I said before, I've already rinsed them and checked them for little stones, little pebbles, little rocks. And we're not going to let this cook down to mush. Most people's experiences with lentil soup is soft, much texture. Okay, I'm going to give it a taste and see where our spices and our flavorings are at. It's definitely getting there. I'm going to put the top back on to get it going a little more heat-wise. Now generally just a thin spread of the white beans and the bread is sufficient. First, a little drizzle of olive oil on the bread. And you want it to soak in just a little bit. The better olive oil you can use and afford, the better. There's everything from really inexpensive olive oil that doesn't have a lot of flavor. There's actually reviews on the internet about different ones. If you care enough, it's actually worth looking at to see which one you like the most. There's a lot of olive oil out there that is pretty flavorless. As a final part of these crostinis, once they're up, I'll be drizzling a little bit of balsamic syrup. Now, balsamic syrup can be a little pricey in the stores, but it's pretty easy to make. If you've got balsamic vinegar, you just put a little bit in a little measuring cup, really low on the stove, and you cook it down really slow because it's easy to burn until it turns into a very thick syrup. The flavor is incredible. It really concentrates the balsamic. This balsamic actually has a little bit of honey in it too, but it gives it that sweet flavor at the top. Yeah, it's really nice. And it's easy to make. Balsamic syrup is really, really easy to make. And it's, one warning though, it's vinegar on the stove, and it does smell. And it can be pretty powerful. I have made balsamic syrup where I've needed to open the windows in my house. So if you're particularly sensitive to warm vinegar smell, that may be something you want to do also, is open your windows. But you'll know when it's cooking. But very low, slow, very low and slow. All right. All right, so you can see I have the sourdough bread with the white bean, with olive oil, sun-dried tomatoes, and parsley. Every oven, every toaster oven, everything is different, so you'll need to pay attention yourself. I like putting it under the broiler. Low and slow is good. We'll just keep our eye on it. Now the lemon that gets added to the soup gets added right towards the end. Have my bowl here for my scrap. And I'm going to chop a little cilantro, because if you like cilantro, because that'll go on top of the soup as well. And again, easiest method, very light. You're just sort of pulling at the stems to get the leaves off. There. And give that a light chop, and that'll just be another topping for the soup. If you don't like cilantro, go ahead and use the parsley that I used for the bruschetta. That'll work just as well. It'll be really tasty on there. Oftentimes, just a little bit of a green herb will just brighten a dish and just make it that much better. Try it before and after adding the herb, and you'll be surprised just how much of a nice addition it is. Let's see how this is coming along, doneness-wise. We are getting there. Now for the soup, it'll be both lemon zest and lemon juice that's in it. It doesn't take that much to really enhance the flavor of this. We'll zest about a teaspoon of zest and about a teaspoon of juice. Always easier to zest before you've cut it open in juice. This is actually a microplane, a little more handy than a lot of zesters. It just does more jobs. And if you don't need to buy 3 or 4 or 5 different kitchen tools, this one does a lot of different things. And the fact that you can buy these with different gratings. So if you're looking for something really fine, like what I'm doing now for the zest, or a much bigger chunk. Here, that's almost enough zest. The zest is where all the oils from the lemon is. So that's why you're looking for the zest part as opposed to on top of the oil, on top of the juice. And to keep the juice from squirting in my eye, it's always a nice thing to give it a place to go. This is getting there, but it's not quite time for the lemon. In Indian food, the red lentils is used for dal, which is probably a familiar term for some of you. Basically, they cook the red lentils until they get so soft, it's just like a soft mush. You can also use an immersion blender or a regular blender to get it that soft. And most dals are the basis of an awful lot of Indian dishes. It'll be a dish of the dal, the lentils, and then a variety of 6, 7 different toppings, whether it's cilantro, other vegetables, pickles. Let's check our crostini. They are doing well. Our soup is just about done. So we've gotten to the point where we can add the lemon. And again, that's one of the more unusual parts of this dish. We've got a nice boil going on right now. I'm going to turn off the heat. Give it a nice stir. And again, a little review of the ingredients. Onion, coriander, cumin, carrots, red lentils, which turn yellowish orange as opposed to red. And now we will add the more unusual ingredients. We're adding about a teaspoon of lemon zest and about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Try to avoid some seeds. Voila! We're going to let that sit for a minute before I dish it up. And if you remember right, in here is our crostini. And our crostini is a white bean spread with sun-dried tomato, parsley, salt and pepper, a little garlic, but the topper for this is this lovely balsamic syrup. And that will add a sweet flavor and just a very thin little line on it. You can see what I'm doing on here. It's just enough to enhance and give you a little contrast in the flavor from the spice. Very good. Let's dish up some soup. The smell is wonderful here. This is cilantro. You can certainly use parsley if you're not a cilantro fan. So there we have it. We have lemony red lentil soup with potatoes and carrots, and crostini with white bean spread, sun-dried tomatoes, and balsamic syrup. Enjoy!